What is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo Sports Talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Thank you so much for watching, for listening. However, you are consuming this podcast. I appreciate you very much. Shout out to today's sponsor, the law office of William Mattar. Heard in a car, call William Mattar, 444-4444. Call William Mattar today to get the compensation that you deserve. This is our Tuesday podcast. Wasn't originally planned, but we are now live on the video side here on a Monday night. A cold day in Western New York, a cold day at One Bills Drive. Sudden and severe plot twist on a Monday. Sean McDermott is out. Brandon Beane not only stays, but also catches a promotion. Kind of feels a little bit like Littlefinger on Game of Thrones level type shit to me. A big, big change for the Buffalo Bills. Here to discuss that with me and plenty more. The host of the popular Bruce exclusive that drops every Thursday. My guy, Bruce Nolan. Bruce, I feel like you are a man that's very level-headed and measured in your reactions, which is like the perfect foil for my knee-jerk craziness. Thank you for coming on, and I know you're playing hurt here, battling the elements here yourself. What's going on, man? How you doing?
Dude, it's a party. It's never stopped being a party, but never has it been a party plot twist like it was today with the news that the Bills are parting ways with head coach Sean McDermott. It's weird because I have never been a Bills podcaster for a single episode when Sean McDermott wasn't the head coach.
Oh, wow. That's right. Wow.
Because this is 6.5 years now, and he's been the coach for 9 years. So that's kind of weird. Like I had people messaging me going like, we've never been through a Bruce coaching search before. I'm like, no, you haven't.
That's kind of fun. I never thought of that. Neither have I. I mean, this started in 2018, and the Bills had already made the playoffs, actually, by the time I started this podcast. I want to let everybody know that we're going to dive in. First of all, again, thank you, everyone who's watching on the video side. Leave comments. I'll try to get to some of them, but, basically talk amongst yourself. I kind of want to focus in on this podcast. It'll all play on the chat replay, too, later on as well. Tomorrow, Matt Moran from SB Nation will join me, as always, for the Wednesday podcast. And then Wednesday night, I'll be live with Tim Graham. So I'm very much looking forward to that conversation. I got Bruce Nolan here with me right now. Let's just start with, the simple question here, Bruce. You get up on a Monday, again, not feeling your best right now physically. What was your level of surprise, and what was your initial reaction to the news that Sean McDermott got fired?
I think for a lot of people, it went through stages. At least it certainly did for me. The first one is Buffalo Bills have fired Sean McDermott. They've relieved him of his duties, whatever PR jargon you'd like to use for it. And we all went, wow, didn't think they'd do it. Wow, he's kind of ingrained in Buffalo culture. They got a good thing going. They're winning a lot of games. Wow, didn't think they'd do it. And the next thing that happens is, wait, Brandon Beane's staying? Yeah. And then the next thing after that is, wait, Brandon Beane's getting promoted? And so you go through this phase, and I think that the emotions, you've seen it kind of evolve over the course of the day, where it was, okay, I'm shocked they did it, to I'm shocked they did it that way, to I'm shocked this is the outcome, to I'm shocked they handled it this way. Like, those are like the four phases of at least my emotional response.
Yeah.
So for me, that's the way that I look at it. I think to myself, wow, I'm shocked that they did it. I'm shocked that Beane stayed. I'm shocked they gave him a promotion. I'm shocked and disappointed that they handled it the way they did. And so even the people who were absolutely gung-ho fire McDermott, most of them are still not not like this, right? Not this. This isn't the outcome that we wanted. So I think that the strange and weird thing about this is the Bills managed to make a transaction that a lot of people were in favor of and somehow still managed to do it wrong.
Just you're right. You're right. And it blows my mind. And here's what I'd like to do. I want to spend a little bit of time talking about maybe why you think Sean McDermott deserved to get fired. We'll spend a little bit of time talking about why he didn't deserve to get fired. We'll speak a little bit on Brandon Beane, on if he deserved to stay. I mean, that's kind of irrelevant because he is staying, but I want to get your thoughts on that. Before that, though, real quick, for you, Bruce, for everybody who's listening, I kind of got a take here. And it's not about whether Sean McDermott deserves to get fired or not. It's about being old enough that I can remember the Bills Super Bowl era very well. Not only was I alive for it, I was a late teenager, so I knew what was going on. I was following the team very closely. And I remember that Bills Super Bowl run 4 straight years. And what I also remember, and it's easy to forget as we get older and we get further away, removed from that, for the people who are around for that it took at that time, like years, I think, to really kind of step back, fans I'm talking about here, to just really step back and truly appreciate what we had as fans when the Bills were going to the Super Bowl every year, like literally a handful of years. I remember at the time for the third and certainly the fourth, I remember there were fans, media were practically begging the Bills, please don't go back to the Super Bowl. We don't want to lose another Super Bowl. We don't want to be embarrassed. That was the mindset at the time. They were like the lovable losers. They couldn't get over the hump. Now, obviously, it's different levels and stuff like that. But I remember it took years after they were done playing and we realized, well, this era of awesome Bills football is over, to truly appreciate like Andre and Thurman and Bruce and Steve Tasker and all the guys that were around at that time. It took years. Right now, I'm not going to do that again like this time. I started reflecting almost immediately this morning, Bruce, when I found out when Sean McDermott was getting fired. And it took like an hour or two to really kind of reflect and appreciate him. I don't want to wait 5 years to appreciate what he did for this organization. This guy changed the fortune of this franchise for the past 9 years. And let's not forget, people, I mean, this guy coached the Bills to ending a drought, a 17-year drought, before Josh Allen was even a thing for Buffalo. His record during the regular season was awesome. 8 playoff appearances, 5 division titles. He won at least a playoff game in each of the past 6 years. I mean, he certainly had his warts and his flaws. We know that. And, we'll talk about both. Why he deserved to get fired, why he didn't. And you can make a fair case for both, and I'm sure you will. But I think it's important at least to pay some, like, proper respect to the guy that, other than I think Josh Allen, is as responsible for bringing respect and credibility and winning and fun back to being a Bills fan as much as anyone else this past 9 years. Great coach, I thought. A better man, apparently, from, what everyone is saying. And I'll tell you, I'll be rooting for him. I'll be wherever he goes next. I will be rooting for him. It sucks that he couldn't be the head coach here that gets to the Super Bowl and wins one, if they ever do get to one. You know what I'm saying, though, Bruce? It's like, I don't want to wait 5 years to appreciate what he did. I'm ready to feel that way right now.
I think that the way in which this was handled has caused people to accelerate that timeline. Yeah. I think the way that the Bills handled the transaction with Sean McDermott, the way that Sean McDermott handled the reaction with Sean McDermott, and seeing those two things juxtaposed next to each other have accelerated that timeline. Where I'll level with you right now, if Sean McDermott went to go coach another team and he came back and that team had a game against the Bills in their new stadium, I'll bet you Sean McDermott would get an ovation. Right now, he would get an ovation. And that is crazy to me, given the fact that how quickly it's turned, because I think people said that they wanted something new. But what they got was a half measure. And they got concerns that the Bills are going to end up looking like the Sabres. That's what they got. And so when they said, hey, you've been doing it for 9 years, you got to make sure that you do something new. You keep trying the same thing over and over. Everyone says the Albert Einstein quote, right? Which is, insanity is doing the same thing multiple times, expecting different results. They all use that. But you're doing part of the same thing over again with Brandon Beane. In fact, you're doubling down on part of it when you got rid of some of it. That's not what they had in mind. When they said they wanted something new, what they meant was they wanted it all to be new. Not this one thing is going to be new, but then we're also doubling down on this other part of the thing. And so even the people who wanted McDermott gone are probably like, I meant that I wanted all gone. I didn't mean I wanted McDermott gone and Beane to get promoted. So
Yeah.
I'll level with you. A move that would have been begrudgingly approved of by a chunk of Bills fans because of the way in which they've handled it and the pressure it puts on the organization to very quickly prove that the narrative that Brandon Beane is putting out now is correct is significant.
Do you deserve, let's just get, cut right to the nitty gritty here. If you're the owner and you're making the call, do you think that Sean McDermott deserved to get fired today?
I completely understand. If I'm the owner and I go down and I have a conversation with Brandon Beane and with Sean McDermott together, and I'm saying, listen, we haven't gotten the job done. Both of you all are gone. I would feel completely justified in that.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's been an entire era of Bills football, It's not like you didn't give them time to implement their vision. There's been multiple different iterations of their vision at this point, and it hasn't been enough. And the acknowledgement that, listen, this has been a good era of Bills football, but it hasn't been enough to get what you want out of it. That's completely justifiable to me. So I would have been completely all right with it, but that's not what happened. So you didn't just fire Sean McDermott. You decided to put the blame, essentially all of it, on the feet of Sean McDermott, which I don't think anybody, even the most ardent Sean McDermott detractors, would say that all of it deserves to be put on Sean McDermott's feet.
I'm really struggling with it. Even what now, a half a day later, 2021, if you fired him the next day, I would have been like, he deserved it. He cost the Bills an opportunity to go to the Super Bowl, and that's squarely on him. And I'd be willing to hear the reason in 2023 and 2024 even as well. I feel like that could have been a case that it was deserved. I don't know, man. I thought, maybe you don't agree with me, Bruce. I thought he did a great job this year. I thought this was one of his best coaching jobs he did this season. And you go back to the playoffs, so he had never won a road game, even a week ago. I thought he coached circles last week around Cohen and did a great job on Trevor Lawrence in a very good Jacksonville offense. And I think it's fair to say he made mistakes in Denver. I'm not going to say he didn't, but Bruce, there's a school of thought that, hey, man, it ain't my fault, being Sean's fault that they had 5 turnovers in this game that Josh Allen fumbled. Well, you could say it's his fault. He fumbled before the half because he should have been like, take your ass down on the knee and we're getting into the locker room. But a lot of the plays in this game, they just weren't his fault. The injuries, just this team was held together by Scotch tape this year, man. Ed Oliver hurt almost all the year, the whole season. You got Dane Jackson, Darnell Savage out there in meaningful spots. I don't know, man. I just feel like this wasn't the year to do it. If you're going to do it,
the hilarity to me is it completely flies in the face of Brandon Beane's stated philosophy, right? He says and has said, and by the way, I completely disagree with this, but it doesn't matter. That's what he said, is that your last game, right? Your playoff loss will tell you where your flaws are, right? It'll tell you what you need to work on. Did anybody walk away from that playoff run and think that Sean McDermott was the biggest problem? Did anybody walk away from the loss at Denver and go, you know what? I'm divvying up pie for that loss. Sean McDermott's the biggest reason why we lost. Anybody? No, of course not. In fact, like you said, Josh Allen threw 4 picks. Are you really going to go into the offseason going, well, we got a Josh Allen problem? That's the issue. The issue is we got to get rid of Josh Allen. No, of course not, because Brandon Beane's philosophy on that idea, the idea that your last game shows you where your flaws are and what you have to work on, is wrong, right? You're literally spitting in the face of sample size. And when you tell the fans, hey, we're going to build a team that needs to beat the Chiefs, that is what happens because you lost to the Chiefs multiple times in the playoffs. And so if that's your philosophy, then you end up building a team that's designed to beat one team, and then you end up with the roster issue that you have now. Congratulations. You consistently beat the Chiefs in the regular season. A lot of good that did you. So that's a hilarious part, is that the move that they made doesn't line up with the established statement that Brandon Beane has made about what the last game of the year actually means. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, again, if you look at the totality of Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane's tenure here, I think there's a completely justifiable argument that you gotta do something different. It hasn't worked. This era of football has been a success for the Bills in the sense that it re-legitimized the franchise and it brought credibility and winning and Josh Allen, and that's great. But it didn't get us where we need to go. We need to move to the next era. But you didn't move to the next era. It's still the Beane era.
Yeah.
You didn't move to the next era. It's still the Beane era. Now it's even more the Beane era. Now we're not going to look back at it as the Sean McDermott era. We're going to look back at it as the Brandon Beane era because he's the one who survived.
Yeah, no more McBean era. Now it's just the Bean era at this point. I want to pull up a comment because I had to Dominic in the live chat. So if Cook catches the ball, McDermott is still the coach. Well, he's still the coach for this week, that's for sure, because the Bills will be playing a football game in Foxborough on Sunday. I know you're not a man who likes to speculate a lot. You like to, kind of analyze and react to things. If the Bills won this game and they get to the AFC title game, do you think things are different if they were to lose? You think this is still the same outcome? Do you think that there
If you get to the AFC Championship game and you lose to New England, I think the outcome's the same.
Do you think New England, let me ask you this too, if the real reason is, the biggest reason, I'm sure there's multiple reasons, but let's just say the biggest one in the pie chart is that Terry Pegula just concluded that Sean McDermott is not going to be the guy who gets you over the hump. But the fact that, you've been through this process and getting close and having Wex at the pinata for several years now, and then you see a team like New England who wins all these Super Bowls, and then they literally bottom out. Belichick's gone, and Brady's gone, and like a year ago, they were literally Week 18 playing for the number one pick in the draft, and they blew that game by beating Buffalo's backups at the time. We're laughing at New England. Well, 12 months later, they're playing football, and the Bills aren't. They win the division. They're playing for the AFC title game. They got a great chance to go to the Super Bowl. Do you think New England kind of leapfrogging Buffalo this quickly may have played any kind of role in what we're seeing today?
Sure. I mean, absolutely. I think that seeing a team that had a change of coach and not a massive amount of talent injection, I think that is a big deal. I think that speaks to, well, man, maybe a change of coach really is the thing that you need. Frankly, I also think that Terry Pegula believes, and I know this because this is what the insiders are all spewing right now, which means this is the line they've been fed to them from Brandon Beane and the people remaining in the organization. They think the team is more talented than I think it is. And I've said this multiple times. I said this a month ago on the pod we were talking about. I said, listen, I don't think that you can live in a world where simultaneously wins aren't a quarterback stat, but also Sean McDermott's the worst coach in the world, but also the team isn't really talented. Like those three things can't work all together. So if wins aren't a quarterback stat and the team isn't really talented, but they're still winning a ton of games, Sean McDermott can't be a terrible coach. Like he just can't be. I'm not saying he's a great coach. I have specifically used the word fine all the time. I've just said fine. And people have gotten mad at me on both sides. People who think that he's awful have got mad at me. People who think he's awesome have gotten mad at me. I said he's fine. I think there's certain things that he does really, really well, and then other things he doesn't do as well. And he works really hard and he tries really hard and he cares a lot. I think he's a man of high character. I think they've had a couple of those high character coaches over the course of the last 20, 25 years as Buffalo Bills fans. And that's been great. But ultimately, I don't think it's that talented of a roster. But when you start to hear people go, man, he couldn't get over the hump with all, top 5 roster, all this. I'm sitting here going, what are you looking at? Like, I don't think this is a top 5 roster. I don't think it's a top 10 roster. And I don't look at the vitals on this team. You go through the checklist of the vitals on this team, and I don't see a lot of green check marks, right? You're not in good cap space. You're not super talented. You got a ton of expiring contracts. It's not like you're overflowing with draft capital. So who's in charge of all that? And I think that Brandon Beane successfully convinced Terry Pegula that Sean McDermott was in charge of that. And listen, I'm just getting the groceries, man. He's the one building the shopping list. I'm just getting the groceries. So if the meal turns out terrible, then don't get mad at the guy who just got the groceries. He's the chef. He's the one who has to put it all together. I gave him the best things he possibly could ask for, and he screwed up. And it's not a flambe anymore. It's just a bleh. So that's what happened. And to me, those power struggles end up like that. And it's, somebody said it not too long ago on social media, I don't remember, but the coach doesn't sit next to the owner. The GM does. They sit next to each other all day in the box. They're sitting and watching the game together. It's the owner sitting right next to the GM. It's not the owner sitting to coach because he's on the field doing the coaching. So for me, it's a scenario where I think that they believe, and when I say they, I mean Pegula and Brandon Beane, I think they think the team is talented and Sean McDermott didn't make good use of that talent. I don't think it's as talented as they think it is. And we're going to find out real soon.
Yeah, we certainly are. And like I said at the beginning, for people, if you watch Game of Thrones, like the whole Beane with Pegula thing kind of feels a little bit like Littlefinger to me. Anyway, we're going to do this. Take a real quick break on the video side. Literally going to be back 5 seconds. Plenty more coming up with Bruce Nolan. All right, back here, more Talking Buffalo, presented by the law office of William Mattar. Her in a car, call William Mattar, 444-4444. Bruce Nolan is with me. Were you starting to get a growing sense, like a lot of other people were? I know I was at this point too, that there was definitely becoming, I don't want to say a feud, maybe a little bit of a rift. Certainly, Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane did not seem to be in lockstep. At least that's the sense I kind of felt, and I'm sure others did too. They weren't in lockstep like they used to be, and there were a couple of little digs here and there that we've talked about plenty, like the Jacoby Myers comments that Sean McDermott kept referencing, a couple weeks ago. We know that Sean McDermott was really unhappy about losing Jamarcus Ingram, which may or may not have cost him in that game ultimately against Denver. But do you think, now I know, like I watched NFL Network today and national people are reporting, and I'm sure there's a lot of truth to it, that ultimately they just think, like you were talking about before the break, this team was better, in the eyes of Pegula and Brandon Beane. This was a championship caliber roster. I'm with you there. I don't think it was either. But if that could be the reporter, how much do you think this was starting to become maybe a power struggle of sorts, and these two guys just couldn't work together, and it became maybe he's got to go or one of us got to go type of deal? Do you think to any extent it could have been like that?
I do. And I think that's part of what you get when you have two people reporting to the owner. You have a head coach and a GM both reporting to the owner. And when you don't get over the hump and the owner goes and asks the head coach, hey, why don't you think you got over the hump? And the owner goes and asks the GM separately, why don't you think you got over the hump? I mean, how many people are you going to know going, you know what, guys? I got to be honest. I think it's a really talented team, and I don't think I'm a good enough coach. I think that's the problem. Like, how many people are going to say that? How many people are going to say, listen, the issue is that Sean McDermott's an amazing coach, and I just haven't gotten any talent. That's the problem, right? The issue is that I haven't managed the talent on the roster. Like, who's going to say that? No, it's each one of these vying for an opinion. And there was somebody in the comments section who said, well, if you fire Beane, you want a total rebuild, and they don't want that with Josh Allen. I do, right? The era is either open or the era is closed. Half measures are not going to be the way. And especially a half measure with a guy who, I don't think anybody except for maybe Terry Pegula and Brandon Beane think this is a top 3, top 4 roster. I don't think anybody thinks that the Buffalo Bills are just littered with all pros that just have yet to be uncovered because the coaching was horrific. I don't think anybody thought that. And so everybody's going, wait, hold on. Look at the draft record. Look at the free agent signings. Look at the constant reshuffling of the defensive line for 8 straight off seasons. It's the Bills have a brand new defensive line and this is going to work this time. And it never does. And you think to yourself, wait, hold on. That's the guy who got promoted? But when you have the ear of the owner, you can have that conversation and you can get him to say, you know what? Of the two of you, I don't want to rebuild, which means I want to keep one of you. And of the two of you, I believe Brandon. Therefore, Sean's got to go. And it's that simple to me.
So when I look at this defense, and I want to be clear too, by the way, everybody, it sounds as I'm coming off as like this big Sean McDermott truther. And the reality is I'm kind of not. Again, I've been good with them firing him multiple years before this. I personally don't think this was the year to do it, but I'm more upset or annoyed, maybe is the better term, that they didn't fire both of them. Like you've been saying this entire show. That's maybe my bigger issue than they fired Sean McDermott. Like if we would have gotten a message on Monday, Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane are both out, I would have been like, oh, cool, man. I can't wait to see where this is going to go. I kind of feel like I already know where it's going to go because I know who the GM is and I know what he's been doing for the last 8 years. And I know what the salary cap situation is. So I kind of feel like that's what annoys me more than anything. It's not that, again, that I'm some, I'm not like this huge Sean McDermott should be the coach forever kind of ally because I mentioned reasons why I don't think he deserves to be fired. I think there's reasons why he deserves to be fired. You can conclude that, hey, this guy's not going to get us over the hump. And, whether this is the most talented roster, top 5, top 10 in the league or not, they had an opportunity. They were winning in the fourth quarter to go win this game. There's a school of thought that maybe this team seems to tighten up at some point in the playoffs every year instead of playing loose, including this one. You could talk about the defense. And again, I know it was a patchwork, defense with injuries and stuff, but that defense on Saturday, Bruce, they allowed 5 scoring drives of at least 64 yards, including 3 touchdown drives that all went for 69 yards or more. I mean, this is Bo Nix, not Patrick Mahomes in Arrowhead marching up and down the field against you. Do you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I blame him for some stuff. I know a lot of people think this is ridiculous. I go back to the season finale. I'm still mad that Max Harrison was in the game in a 35-0 game, him and Trey White. And I talked about it at the time. It's not like I'm just bringing this up now. He did it in I think it was 2019. I would have played Keon Coleman. I would have played Lot 2. I would have played with 10 guys. It's 35-0. You're playing Brady Cook in the New York Jets fourth quarter. I am not risking Max Harrison or Trey White out there. They both were out there with 8 minutes left. And you've seen in the past, Christian Benford has missed playoff games, elimination games because of injuries. So there's plenty of stuff that I can blame him for. And you know what? One other thing, too. The defensive line, Bruce, the talent's not there. I agree. But why do guys like Poona Ford and Tim Settle come to Buffalo here and they stink? But then they leave and they suddenly become very formidable players. I mean, some of that might be coaching him. Some of that might be on Sean. So I do see the side of him getting fired. You know what I mean?
I don't think, and I think that what you just said there is appropriate because I don't think anybody should walk away from this conversation with the idea that we think McDermott is the greatest coach ever, and it's a shame and it's unthinkable that he's gone. It's this simple. We want to think that ownership is viewing the problem the way we are viewing the problem. That's what it is. And so what happens is when you fire McDermott and Beane together, what you're saying is this era of football didn't get the job done. We're moving on to the next era. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
When you fire McDermott and you're promoting Brandon Beane, you go, hey, I think we might be a head coach away. I don't think the coach is I don't think the talent's the problem. I don't think there's an organizational issue. I don't think we have a drafting problem. I don't think we have a contract issue. I don't think we have a cap problem. I don't think we have any of that stuff. I think it's a head coaching problem. I think if we just swap the head coach, I think we can get there. That's what you're saying. And I don't think anybody actually thinks that. So to me, that's the reason why you get so disappointed is because nobody thought, okay, you know what? They're going to fire McDermott. They're going to promote Beane. Like what has Beane done to deserve to be promoted? Like I made a comment on social media. I think 2 days ago, and I said, if you told me that only one of them, you have to fire one, and you can only fire one, I'm taking Beane. And it's real simple. I don't think the roster is that talented. That's it. This is not that hard, right? And so when you see the organization do something where we're all thinking either just rip the Band-Aid off and start over a new era, which we all accept, right? Or don't. And then they somehow manage to half measure it and somehow get the worst of both worlds and then handle the PR wrong. And you're sitting here going thinking, like, that's why everyone gets upset. That's why everyone gets disappointed. Everyone gets disappointed because you're like, come on, man. We all see it. Why don't you see it? And even the people who disagree with the firing of Sean McDermott still would like, okay, well, I could have gotten on board if they would have done it better. And the people who hated Sean McDermott are still like, I mean, you managed to screw it up. I wanted it gone, but not like this. You managed to tick off everybody, right? You tried to serve two masters. You end up serving none. The people who were pro McDermott, the people who are anti McDermott, you managed to hate everybody. You isolated the entirety of the, like, it's like 95-5 right now on social media. People who are mad versus people who are happy.
Bruce, it's crazy. I know you don't follow the Sabres much, and good for you. Although they've been playing really good hockey lately, but over the last 14 years, it's just been a travesty. The Sabres and the New York Jets, I feel like every year they just outdo each other for being the worst organization in all of sports. And Kevin Adams, who recently got fired, maybe the most unpopular general manager I've ever seen. And Brandon Beane went from being big baller Beane to, and this year it's been like, yo, they're coming for him. Like they want to give him the smoke. And now today, in one day, this might be unfair to him almost because we haven't heard from him yet, but Brandon Beane's kind of become like public enemy number one with the Bills right now. Like, you always got a whipping boy, like somebody you're going to blame for everything. Sean McDermott was that guy for a while. Now it feels like that's going to fall squarely on Brandon Beane. The vitriol from fans is crazy, but you're so right about the talent because, look, Brandon Beane had his hands all over this roster this year. I mean, Joey Bosa turned out to be an awful signing. I mean, he was good early on. He really was impactful, and he was making impactful plays. That third quarter against Pittsburgh, he turned the game around on the first play of the half. So, but he just fell off a cliff at the end. And you signed him for January, and he was useless. And speaking of Larry Ogunjobi, that whole fiasco, he literally was an active scratch in Jacksonville. Those were disaster signings, man. And you're bringing back all these former Bills, a reunion. It was fun for a moment, but you get to the playoffs. You need some of these guys. No Jordan Poyer because he got hurt. No Jordan Phillips, he got hurt. No Gabe Davis, he got hurt. Dane Jackson played. Everyone wishes that he wasn't out there, but there's that. And then obviously the wide receivers. We could take up an entire podcast just talking about them, man. So I don't know. Are you surprised? I guess a long-winded question. Are you surprised at how quickly it kind of seems like the heat is turned and now it is like squarely on Brandon Beane? Like, there's not going to be any leash at all, is there, Bruce, coming into this season? There's no new coach grace period at all, is there?
No, there really isn't. And that's a shame to whoever the new coach is, because chances are whoever this new coach is, they didn't ask for this, right? But they're coming into a circumstance where it's an attractive job opening because you have Josh Allen, right? That's why it's attractive. But apart from that, there's going to be heat turned up on a guy whose seat just got super cold. And that's where the issue is. When there's fan heat on someone, but no ownership heat on someone. That's when the frustration starts to get upset. It's what I just said about the alignment, right? The reason why fan bases are either happy or sad is when organizations are aligned with them. So if we see the problem as XYZ and they see the problem as ABC, that ends up causing friction. You're not aligned, right? So that's why when you have people who say, hey, I want a new era of Bills football, they meant McDermott and Beane, right? That's what they meant. And so now this new guy comes in, and if the Buffalo Bills, let's say they get bumped in the first round of the playoffs next year. Let's say they don't make the playoffs. Like, They don't make the playoffs next year, right? Worst case scenario. The fire on Beane from the fan base will be significant, but the ownership won't do anything. They just gave him a new player personnel title. They literally just called him the president of football operations. He's going to run the whole thing. So it's just going to cause even more anxiety and vitriol because you're going to be mad at a person whose seat is ice cold.
Let me ask you this. How attractive is this job really? Because when you go on Twitter and a lot of people say this might be the most attractive job opening right now. You certainly got the best quarterback going in the game, and he's 30 years old. I mean, it's not old. It feels old sometimes because he's been here for so long, but you got the great quarterback, but there's a lot of pieces they don't have, and they got a lot of holes, and they don't got a lot of cap room, and they got a lot of pending free agents. Is this, Bruce, and we're being objective and honest here, in your opinion, is this as an attractive job as a lot, and pretty much everybody has made it out to be? Because, man, I'm not quite sure it is.
It's an attractive job because the number one thing that gets you fired is not finding the quarterback.
True.
Think about Stefanski, for example, right? Stefanski got hired in 3 seconds after getting fired from the Browns because everybody just said, okay, you know what? We think he's a good coach. The 2 times he got decent quarterback play, he made the playoffs, right? The time he got he made it happen. You just get to take that completely off the table with the Bills job. So I do think it's attractive because the biggest issue you don't have to deal with, which is you have a good quarterback. So I think it's attractive for that reason. I will say this, though. I think that if a new coach comes in and gets to the wild card round or the divisional round 2 years and gets bounced, who says Beane's not going to throw you under the bus? Right?
Yeah.
Like, who says it's not going to happen? We're forgetting now what the world was like pre-McDermott. And I'm not talking about the drought. I'm not talking about 17 years. I'm talking about every 2, every 3. Nobody lasted with the Buffalo Bills as head coach. Nobody lasted because the organization was, generally speaking, dysfunctional. The time when the Buffalo Bills became respectable was when Sean McDermott got here, not when Brandon Beane got here. And we're forgetting this. The organizational respectability came with Sean McDermott. We're just hoping it didn't leave with Sean McDermott.
Yeah. I saw a stat on Twitter. Brandon Beane's 56 draft picks, only 2 of them have been Pro Bowlers to this point, Cook and Dawson Knox. It's just pretty wild to me. But here's the deal, all right? So it is what it is now. I mean, we could sit there and analyze it, complain about it, whatever. It was done is done. Sean McDermott is out. Brandon Beane is staying. Which, by the way, I don't know. As Bruce and I are on the air live here on a late Monday night, we don't know when Brandon Beane is going to speak. But I would surmise to you and everybody that is going to be must watch or must listen. I am banking on certain members of the Buffalo sports media to really grill Brandon Beane, and I'm hoping to get some good answers. I don't expect Terry Pegula to do anything. If he does anything, it'll just be, a quick introduction. I take that back. He's not going to speak at all. I want to hear Brandon Beane speak, and I'm looking forward to what he's got to say. But anyway, what's done is done. Moving forward right now, what do you see the Bills doing? I do want to point out one thing, and it's a very, very unpopular opinion. Bruce, this is simply my theory. Let me know if you think it's entirely off base. I hope it is for the sake of Bills Mafia after the reactions I've been getting. But Joe Brady had not 1, not 2, but 3 interviews on Sunday. And my first thought was, I think Joe Brady's going to get one of these jobs. Now, one of them's already gone, the Miami job. So it's Baltimore. I can't remember the other one that they interviewed for. But anyway, he's out there. And I think there might be a school of thought that they said, you know what? If we don't promote Joe Brady to head coach, we're going to lose him. Another team is going to get him, and he's going to become the head coach. Long story short, much to the dismay and chagrin of a lot of people listening to this show, I think Joe Brady's in play, maybe very much so, to be the Bills head coach. I don't know if you agree with that at all. And I'm not citing sources, by the way. It's just my feeling right now. What's yours?
Oh, I think he's absolutely in play. I think there's a reason why you've seen that kind of bandied about the social media sphere from insiders and commentators on Joe Brady, and the idea that he could be like the guy in waiting, right? The idea that you might be able to maintain some of that McDermott culture. Maybe you can keep some of that stuff with Joe Brady. I would not be enthused with that.
Nobody will be.
And I think the reason why I think I wouldn't be enthused with that is exactly what we talked about before. I said that I wanted a new era, right?
Mhm.
So new era meant both of them. And so what I got was I got one of them, but I didn't even fully get that one because it was an internal promotion. So it's like, it's not really a new era at all. In fact, it's just Diet McBean era at that point. And we just said that wasn't good enough to get you over the hump. It's like I don't say rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. It's way too dramatic, but it's a little bit like that picture of what's that guy's name? Like Alex Jones, the dude where there's the meme where he looks exactly the same on both sides of the thing, but one is tan.
He's just tan,
right? It's that, right? That's exactly what it feels like to me if the Buffalo Bills promote Joe Brady to head coach. So I would not be enthused. And I'm okay with that. And I think one of the hilarious parts about this thing, and I'll kick it back to you after. I know this is not related to your question, but one of the hilarious parts about this for me is, as commentators, we get accused of being cheerleaders for the organization.
Oh, yeah.
When things are, and it's hilarious now because now that they're doing things that I don't like and I'm being negative about it, now everybody's mad that I'm not on board. So it's funny because ultimately the best thing you can do in this circumstance is just be honest with people. Just be honest and be consistent. And the rest of it will take care of itself. But I just find it ironic that the kind of the age of Bill's podcasts has sort of come all within the Sean McDermott era. And so now this is like the first time we're all going through this together, as opposed to like, other podcasts where they've gone through 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 coaching transitions. Not for us. It's their first run.
Yeah, 100%. And I'll say this too. If you are if you're a big Bills fan, but you don't really follow the Sabres, but you want to know what it was like, the vibes to be a Sabres fan, well, I'll tell you, if the Bills hire Joe Brady, you're going to find out, because the fan reaction is going to be very Buffalo Sabres-esque, and it's going to be an ugly, ugly offseason. Now, to be fair, for content creators like you and I, sometimes people being mad is good because they're going to hate listen or whatever. You know what I mean? And they're going to want to vent and they're going to want to listen and then they're going to want to complain about it afterwards. It's just, I'm not even saying that it's going to be that he would be a terrible hire. I want to be clear about that either. I don't love it. It's uninspiring. I don't want it to happen. I'm just pointing out that I very much think it's going to be in play, and it's very, very obviously going to be wildly unpopular among the fan base. Now, another guy, as we're winding down here, who I don't think he's going to be as unpopular, kind of like a mixed bag, but Brian Daboll potentially could be in the mix. I was listening to, shout out Leading the Charge with Matt Bovee, Howard Simon, and Joe B before actually we went on the air tonight, and I caught Joe B's segment, and he was talking prominently about Davis Webb, that 30-year-old guy, a rising star, and he thinks he's going to be a head coach somewhere in the next 1 to 2 years. And he sees a potential scenario where Davis Webb were to come to Buffalo. Maybe Brian Daboll would be his OC. Actually, Joe kind of framed it that it could be either or, head coach or offensive coordinator, whichever way you looked at it. But like maybe some kind of combo like that. How would you feel about something like that? Davis Webb is obviously Bill's ties. He's very close to Josh. Rising name in this business. Do you have a thought on that? And is there any other coach out there that like has caught your interest that you would like to see here?
I can see the argument for it. It does feel a little bit like a half measure, right? Bring them home. Like didn't we hate it when they did it with players, but now we're okay when they do it with coaches? Like that's weird, right? Like when you bring Jordan Poyer back and you bring Jordan Phillips back and you bring Shaq Lawson back and you bring everybody back. You bring Micah Hyde back, and everyone goes, oh my gosh, and they roll their eyes. But when we do it with coaches, it's cool. Like, that seems weird to me, right? So again, it wouldn't enthuse me, but I'm okay. Like, I'm okay. It's so hard with coaches because unlike players, where I can go and pull up tape and I can see them play, right? I can watch them play. You don't know how much influence Davis Webb really had on the Denver offense. We know that other people tell us he's a rising star. We know that, but we don't know why. We don't have a chance to see any of it. We don't know the specific influence he had. And so because of that, it's kind of weird. Like, you're all just going based on vibes. You're going based on opinion. You're going based on, conjecture, and you're trying to connect dots about, here's what I think they influenced in their previous spots. And so for me, I'm okay with it, right? Clint Kubiak is a guy that I'm interested in. I'm interested in just also having an offensive play caller as a head coach. I think stabilizes that, and I think it's lovely. I think watching what he's done with offenses that I don't think are uber talented, I think is good. I think the New Orleans Saints totally outkicked their coverage in 2024 when he was their head coach. For the first couple weeks of the season, they were like, oh my gosh, like, this is the hottest offense in the world, right? And then they had injuries and a bunch of things came off the rails. Yeah. And then, of course, you've seen what the Seahawks are doing this year, and you're seeing Sam Darnold continue his trajectory. You're seeing really good usage out of Kenneth Walker, and you're seeing productive passing attacks that can flow through an alpha wide receiver. And you're seeing all the things that make you think, okay, he's hitting the intermediate throws. It's not like it's Joe Brady hitting a bunch of wide receiver screens. And so you look at that and you go, okay, I can see a projection there with someone like Clint Kubiak. So I think there are names out there that I perk my eyebrows up, but ultimately, I don't think this is as strong of a cycle as it has been.
Yes. Thank you for saying that, by the way, because that's been part of my other deal with Sean McDermott. It's like everyone always wants to fire somebody. In certain years, I'm like, hell yeah. But like right now, you fire him. I'm like, all right, well, who is clearly better suited to coach this football team right now than Sean McDermott? That's my question. I want to point out a quick comment, too, in the live chat. Ralph Wilson Sr., a regular, love this dude on the show. He says, Dable isn't working under a kid who worked under him. Tell you what, dude, there's only 32 head coaching jobs in the NFL. You know what I mean? If he's not going to be a head coach, he's going to be an offensive coordinator somewhere. So, chance to work with Josh Allen, get your resume back up there. I don't necessarily agree with that. Well, let me ask you this here. If it's your pick, if it's your call, if you're Brandon Beane or Pegula, whoever the hell, which, by the way, what the hell is he even doing on the search process? That wasn't part of the statement, which was absolutely ridiculous. But Pegula, whoever's pulling the trigger at the end of the day, it's your call. You got you're picking the litter here because Buffalo is such an attractive job, and you got Josh Allen. Who are you landing on if it's up to you? Who would suit you the best?
Kubiak is the top of my list, and I think that Kubiak would be inclined for the job because of Josh Allen. Also, remember, Sam Darnold and Josh Allen are tight, so Sam Darnold can fill in Kubiak on Josh Allen too. So I think that would further the case, truthfully. So I think that matters. For me, that's the way that I would go. I think having a new, fresh offensive picture here, as opposed to Dable or Webb or players like that, I think that would help. I think Kubiak's been successful. I think the system's been successful. I think having an offensive play caller as head coach is valuable. I think getting someone from outside the organization with a fresh perspective, I think, is valuable as well, because I think that you're going to need to breathe some new life, some new air into this building. And I think that that's the way I would go.
If it's going to be Joe Brady, if he was going to get the promotion, my understanding is they don't even need to interview anyone else. They could just promote him to head coach. It doesn't fall in line with what we saw, that there's going to be a search led for the new head coach. I think even if it is Brady, they'll interview at least a few people. But I just wanted to point that out, that if it was Brady, it could literally come as early as Tuesday if they wanted it to be. If they're doing interviews with other people, it could be, spread out. Put it this way, Bruce, if we're into this time next week and they haven't landed on anybody, that's when like a Clint Kubiak, especially if he's still playing and they haven't hired a coach in a week and a half, it's like you kind of feel like it's going to be Clint Kubiak at that point, right? Unless, of course, they're playing Denver and then maybe it could be Davis Webb as well. But the longer it goes on, the better chance you feel like it's going to be a Kubiak or a Webb or somebody like that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Last question, and then I'm going to let you go. Appreciate your time. Appreciate everybody who's been watching on the live. By the way, we're almost at 2,000 people watching live. So big shout out to all you guys. Just a prediction, a fun prediction. It sucks that it didn't work out for Sean. Again, we talked about this at the beginning. I think we all have a deep admiration for him as a person, for really changing the culture of this franchise. And I think he'll be a very popular guy in this town for a long time. And I think as time goes by, he'll be more and more popular with this fan base. But this is a business. He did get fired. He's going to move on. I think he's going to coach. I'm pretty confident he's going to coach again, maybe as early as this year. What's your prediction right now? Where do you think Sean McDermott will be coaching for in 2026?
Oh, that's a good question. I think Sean McDermott to the Ravens makes a lot of sense to me. I think Sean McDermott, one of the commenters, Leanne, just said Sean McDermott to Vegas. I think that makes a massive ton of sense. If anybody needs a culture builder, it's Vegas
or Cleveland.
And so I don't know how much McDermott would be inclined to work with Barry. That I can see their personalities being an interesting fit. I mean, we'll see. Obviously, I've been wrong about plenty of stuff. I didn't think they'd fire McDermott either. So hey, we're all wrong sometimes. But I think that Leanne makes a lot of sense for the Raiders. I think that makes a lot of sense. And also I think that Baltimore makes a lot of sense.
Well, Baltimore, can you imagine if he goes to Baltimore and then they face Buffalo in the playoffs and beat Buffalo in the playoffs, they get over the hump and Lamar plays a great game in the playoffs. Yep. That would be a kick in the nuts. Not going to even lie. I'd like to see him go to Vegas. I do agree with you. I think that's the perfect program for him to go into and really build from the ground up. I will say I'm very happy he didn't go to Miami's job got filled today. That was one of my first thoughts too, because the job, as of this morning at least, was still open. I was like, this dude is going to get fired and he's going to get petty and he's going to end up going to the Miami Dolphins and we're going to be seeing him clapping on the sidelines in aqua colors twice a year. And I was not looking forward to seeing that. So Tennessee's out there too. I don't know. I don't think Tennessee.
I think Tennessee's going Matt Nagy, and I'm super disappointed for Cam Ward, if that's the case, because I don't think Matt Nagy is the type of coach that's going to be able to get the best out of him. But I think it's going to be Matt Nagy in Tennessee. So we'll see. Again, we're speculating, right? We're just speculating. So we'll see.
We're just having a little bit of fun here at the end of the show. And by the way, make sure everybody you're following Bruce on the Twitter X machine at Bruce Exclusive. Again, check out the Bruce Exclusive podcast. I've been saying it for many, many years. Didn't I get like a 16% owner or finder's fee?
You said you were taking 16% of the credit for my explosion popularity. That's what you said. Yeah.
In all seriousness, Bruce is absolutely one of the best. A little bit different tonight because typically when I have you on, it's about two things. Either we do draft season stuff where I do a mock draft with you and learn a lot from you, or we do our podcast around table that Marino, and Greg Thompson do every year, which is a lot of fun as well. But I appreciate you, dude. As always, man. Really good stuff with you, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you having me.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. Again, over 2,000 on the live. Appreciate you. Matt Warren from SB Nation will join me. And by the way, if you're watching this on YouTube, look to see a schedule. I might be live on Tuesday night with Matt Warren, or it might get pre-recorded and put up at 9 p.m. But one way or the other, Matt Warren, SB Nation. Maybe Brandon Beane will be talking. We'll cover that too tomorrow.